Admiral Jeho Park stood at the window of the Earth Defense Council headquarters in Seoul, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. His reflection showed a man who had aged too much in the past 10 years. The weight of protecting Earth and its colonies had left deep lines on his face. The holographic display behind him showed the latest report from New Eden, humanity's most successful colony. The words on the screen made his hands shake with anger. Legal transfer of authority. New Eden colony now under Arcadian administration. They took another one, he said quietly. His aide, Lieutenant Nayoung, stood silently by his desk, holding more reports. How many does this make? 7 colonies in 5 years, sir, Nayoung replied. All through legal means. Trade agreements, resource management contracts, and development partnerships. The Arcadians never fired a single shot. Jeho walked back to his desk and picked up a small stone, a piece of his home village from old Earth. For 50 years, humanity had played nice with the Arcadian Empire. For 50 years, they had watched as these tall, gray-skinned aliens used their complex laws and treaties to slowly take control of human colonies. Show me the numbers for New Eden, he ordered. Nayoung brought up another display. 2 million human colonists, or the largest farming operations in human space, 30% of our grain production. The Arcadians are calling it a mutual development agreement. Jeho remembered when New Eden was founded. He had been a young captain then, helping to guard the colony ships. The people had worked so hard to turn that rocky world into a garden. Now, with one signature on a legal document, it belonged to the Arcadians. His computer beeped. A message from Earth's president appeared. Admiral Park, please join emergency meeting. Conference room A. Now. They're probably going to tell us to stay calm, Nayoung said quietly. To be diplomatic. Like always. Jeho stood up, straightening his uniform. Maybe, he said, but something felt different this time. He could feel it in his bones. Or maybe they'll finally agree it's time. He walked through the building's clean, white halls. Other officers moved quickly, their faces tense. Everyone had heard about New Eden. In the elevator, Jeho thought about all the reports sitting in his private server, the ones about Earth's real military strength, the ships and weapons they had built in secret, the plans they had made, just in case. The conference room doors opened. Inside, the highest-ranking military and government officials of Earth sat around a large table. The president, a normally cheerful woman, looked like she hadn't slept. Admiral Park, she said. New Eden was the last straw. We voted. Implementation of Protocol Zero is approved. Jeho felt his heart beat faster. Protocol Zero, the plan they had created 40 years ago, when they first realized the Arcadians couldn't be trusted. The plan they had hoped they'd never need to use. How long? He asked. You have 6 months to get everything in position, the president replied. The Arcadians think they've been so clever, taking our worlds with laws and papers. They think humans are weak, patient sheep who will accept anything to avoid conflict. Jeho nodded slowly. They never understood why we were really being patient. He looked around the room at the grim faces of Earth's leaders. For 50 years, humanity had gritted its teeth and endured the Arcadians' games, not out of fear or weakness, but because they needed time. Time to prepare. Time to get everything ready. Send the coded signal to all commands, Jeho ordered. The wait is over. Operation Breaking Point begins now. As he walked back to his office, Jeho felt lighter than he had in years. The time for pretending was finally over. Soon, the Arcadians would learn why it was dangerous to mistake patience for weakness. General Im Ki-Lee walked through the underground facility deep beneath the mountains of New Korea. The massive chamber stretched for kilometers, filled with rows of warships that officially didn't exist. Each vessel gleamed under the bright lights, their dark hulls covered with stealth plating that made them nearly invisible to sensors. Status report, he ordered, approaching Dr. Hae-Yoon Kim, who stood before a holographic display of weapon systems. "Everything is ahead of schedule," Heyun replied, her fingers moving through the display data. "The new quantum drives are installed in all ships of the Ghost Fleet. We can have them ready to launch in 72 hours. Ki nodded, watching workers swarm over the ships like busy ants. For 40 years, humanity had been building this secret force. While their official military used outdated ships and basic weapons, these advanced vessels had been hidden underground, waiting for the right moment. The Arcadians still think we're using fusion drives," Heyun said with a small smile. "They have no idea we cracked quantum technology 20 years ago. Their sensors won't know what hit them." A young officer ran up to them, holding a tablet. "Sir, we've received the signal from Admiral Park. Operation Breaking Point is active." Ki took a deep breath. "Send the activation codes to all hidden bases. Wake up our sleeping giants." Around the world, similar scenes played out in secret facilities. In the depths of Earth's oceans, massive underwater hangars powered up. In the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards began final weapon installations. On Mars, underground bunkers opened to reveal squadrons of advanced fighters. In his private office, Ki opened a secure channel to the weapon development labs. "Dr. Heyun, show me the progress on Project Nightfall." The scientist's face appeared on his screen. Behind her, technicians worked on what looked like normal communication satellites. "The quantum disruption network is ready," she reported. "Once activated, it will shut down all Arcadian quantum communications. They'll be forced to use standard light speed signals, and the time delay will cripple their ability to coordinate their forces." Ki finished. They had planted these devices throughout Arcadian space, disguised as regular communication relays, another gift from their primitive human neighbors. His computer chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Park. "Begin Phase 1. You have authorization to deploy Ghost Fleet units to staging areas. Maintain stealth protocols." Ki walked to the main control center, where dozens of officers coordinated the massive deployment. On the main screen, green dots showed human ships moving into position. The official Earth fleet made noise and drew attention near the border, while the real forces slipped through the darkness of space. "Sir," one of the operators called out, "the Arcadians are requesting permission to send observers to inspect our military facilities. Standard procedure under the peace treaties." Ki smiled. "Show them the same bases we always show them. Let them count our old ships and outdated weapons. It's worked for 50 years. It'll work for a few more weeks." He watched as the first of the Ghost Fleet vessels silently lifted off, their quantum drives leaving no trace in space. The Arcadians had spent decades believing they were dealing with a peaceful, technologically inferior species. They thought humanity's patience came from weakness. They never considered it might be something else. "Discipline. Send word to all commanders," he ordered. "The time for hiding is almost over. Soon, we show the galaxy what humanity has been building in the shadows. Let's make sure everything is perfect when we pull back the curtain." As he walked back through the underground base, Ki looked at the ships with pride. Humanity had endured decades of humiliation and loss, waiting for the right moment. The Arcadians were about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating Earth. The sleeping giant was finally waking up. Ambassador Sun Mai-cho sat in her office in the Arcadian diplomatic quarters on Mars, watching the tall, gray-skinned alien across from her shift uncomfortably in his seat. High Commissioner Varric of the Arcadian Empire was trying to hide his concern, but Sun Mai could see the worry in his 4 eyes. "Ambassador Cho," Varric said, his translator making his voice sound smooth and cultured, "we've noticed some unusual patterns in human behavior lately. Perhaps you can explain why Earth is withdrawing citizens from Arcadian territories." Sun Mi kept her face neutral, just as she had been trained. "Simple economic adjustments, High Commissioner. Many of our citizens are returning home for the New Earth Economic Summit. The summit was real, but it wasn't the reason. Every human leaving Arcadian space carried secret orders and timetables. and the increased activity around your military bases. Varric asked, leaning forward slightly. Annual training exercises, Sun Mai replied, pouring tea for both of them. We always hold them this time of year. Would you like to send observers, as allowed by our treaties? Varric nodded slowly, but Sun Mai could tell he wasn't satisfied. The Arcadians had grown used to humans being predictable, easy to understand. Now, small changes in behavior were making them nervous. Her computer chimed softly. A message from Earth Command appeared in coded text on her screen. Phase 1 proceeding. Continue diplomatic screen. Maintain confusion. High Commissioner, Sun Mai said, changing the subject. I wanted to discuss the development plans for New Eden. Our agricultural experts have some suggestions that might benefit both our peoples. As she talked about farming and trade, Sun Mai thought about the real preparations happening throughout human space. The Ghost Fleet was moving into position. The quantum disruption network was almost ready. Everything humanity had built in secret was about to change the galaxy forever. Later that day, Sun Mai met with her staff in a secure room, swept clean of any listening devices. The Arcadians are getting suspicious, she told them. They've noticed the patterns, but they don't understand what they're seeing. Her deputy, Attaché Du Jin, pulled up a report. They've increased surveillance on all human installations. Their ships are watching our official fleet movements more closely. Good, Sun Mai said. Let them watch the ships we want them to see. How many of our citizens are still in Arcadian space? Less than 10% now, Du Jin replied. Most of them are diplomatic staff or undercover military personnel. The civilian evacuation is almost complete. Sun Mai walked to the window, looking out at the red Martian landscape. The Arcadian diplomatic tower rose in the distance, its curved architecture so different from human buildings. For years, she had walked those halls, smiling and bowing, playing the part of a representative from a weaker species. Send word to our remaining agents, she ordered. Tell them to be ready. When the signal comes, they know what to do. That evening, as she prepared reports for Earth Command, Sun Mai received another coded message. Phase 2 begins in 48 hours. Maintain diplomatic contact until final moment. She thought about the Arcadians, so confident in their superiority. They saw humans as simple creatures, easy to manipulate with laws and treaties. They never understood that every concession, every diplomatic smile, was part of a longer plan. The game was almost over. Soon, the Arcadians would learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't ships or bombs. It was patience. Colonel Ta Wan Kang watched from the bridge of his destroyer as the Earth's primary fleet moved into attack position. These older ships, maintained specifically to deceive the Arcadians, would serve their final purpose today. The display showed 30 vessels, all using outdated fusion drives and basic weapons, exactly what the Arcadians expected from humanity. All ships report ready, Colonel, his executive officer reported. The Arcadian Defense Fleet is responding to our approach. Send the signal, Ta Wan ordered. Begin the attack pattern exactly as planned. Remember, we need to look desperate and disorganized. The human fleet advanced toward the Arcadian border station near New Eden. Their formation appeared ragged, as if thrown together in anger. Weapon systems powered up slowly, using old targeting systems that the Arcadians could easily detect. On his private screen, Ta Wan watched another set of signals. The real human fleet, the Ghost Fleet, moved silently through the darkness of space, their quantum drives leaving no trace. While the Arcadians focused on this obvious attack, humanity's true strength gathered in the shadows. Arcadian ships are moving to intercept, the tactical officer announced. They're broadcasting warnings in all frequencies. Send the prepared response, Ta Wan commanded. Make sure our transmission sounds angry and emotional. His communications officer transmitted the message they had crafted, a seemingly emotional demand for the return of New Eden, filled with the kind of diplomatic mistakes that the Arcadians would expect from simple humans. The Arcadian response came quickly. Their ships moved into a standard defensive formation, exactly as predicted. They had fought this battle 100 times in their simulations, always against the primitive human fleet they thought they knew. Enemy ships launching fighters, Tactical reported. Their formation suggests they expect us to retreat after a brief show of force. Taiwan allowed himself a small smile. Let's give them what they expect. Begin the planned retreat sequence. Make it look like their superior technology has frightened us. The human ships fired several ineffective volleys, their outdated weapons barely scratching the Arcadian shields. Then, as planned, they began to turn away in apparent disorder. The Arcadian ships followed cautiously, their sensors focused entirely on the retreating fleet. In his private command center, Taiwan received a message from Admiral Park. Ghost fleet in position. Quantum disruption network armed. Continue with deception plan for next 48 hours. He looked at the star map showing the true situation. While this fleet of older ships played its part, humanity's real forces had surrounded every major Arcadian installation in this sector. The enemy's overconfidence had made them blind to the trap closing around them. "Sir," his executive officer said quietly, "the crew is asking if we're really running away." "Tell them to be patient," Taiwan replied. "Every retreat is not a defeat. Sometimes it's just good theater." As his fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, apparently beaten, Taiwan thought about the Arcadian commanders. They would be celebrating now, confident in their superiority. They would file reports about another successful confrontation with the primitive humans. And in 2 days, they would learn the true cost of underestimating humanity. Fleet Admiral Min Ji-yoon stood at the command center of Earth Fleet Headquarters as the giant display showed thousands of ships appearing simultaneously across Arcadian space. The Ghost Fleet had finally revealed itself, emerging from quantum stealth like phantoms becoming solid. "All ships report ready," Intelligence Director Jae-sung Choi announced. "The Arcadians are detecting our forces now. Their communications show complete confusion." Minji watched as red dots representing Arcadian ships began moving erratically. Their neat formations broke apart as commanders tried to respond to threats appearing in supposedly secure sectors. The quantum disruption network activated, cutting off their faster-than-light communications. "Send the message to all Arcadian commands," Minji ordered. "Use their military frequencies." The message was simple. "To all Arcadian forces, the human race requests your immediate and unconditional surrender. You have 30 minutes to respond." Jae-sung brought up more data on the main screen. "Their sensors are finally getting clear readings on our ships. They're realizing that everything they thought they knew about human technology was wrong. The Ghost Fleet vessels were works of art. Quantum drives that left no trace in space, weapons that could pierce any known shield, stealth systems that had hidden these ships for decades. Everything humanity had built in secret was now on full display." "Incoming transmission from the Arcadian High Command," an officer reported. They're requesting time to consider their options." "Denied," Minji said firmly. They had 50 years to consider their options. Now they have 25 minutes. She watched as Arcadian ships tried to coordinate their defense, but without quantum communications, their signals took minutes to reach each other. Their elegant battle plans fell apart in the face of an enemy they didn't understand. Multiple Arcadian commanders requesting direct communication, Jae-sung reported. "They're asking how we built all this without their knowledge." Minji thought about all the years of preparation, the hidden factories and asteroid belts, the secret research bases under Earth's oceans, the quantum technology that humans had mastered while pretending to struggle with basic fusion drives. "Show them the data package," she ordered. "Let them see exactly what they missed." On screens across Arcadian space, commanders watched in horror as footage played showing the true extent of human military power. Massive shipyards hidden in plain sight, weapon tests conducted under their noses. 50 years of preparation, all leading to this moment. 10 minutes until deadline. Jae-sung announced. Arcadian ships are powering down weapons. Their central command is sending a new message. The Arcadian Supreme Commander appeared on the main screen, his gray skin pale with shock. How? He asked simply. How did we not see this? You saw what you wanted to see, Minji replied. You saw a simple, patient race that accepted your rules and treaties. You never asked why we were so patient. The deadline approached as Minji looked at the tactical display. Human ships surrounded every major Arcadian installation. 50 years of hidden strength was now visible to the galaxy. The sleeping giant had not only awakened, it had been awake all along, watching and waiting for the perfect moment. Time's up, she said quietly. The galaxy is about to change. The message went out to all Ghost Fleet ships. Begin Operation Breaking Point. Show them what humanity can really do. The revelation was complete. Now came the reckoning. Captain Do-hyun Ryu watched from the bridge of the Ghost Fleet carrier Silent Dawn as human forces surrounded New Eden. The colony's orbital defenses, installed by the Arcadians, powered down one by one as their control systems responded to hidden commands planted years ago. All Arcadian ships in the sector have been contained, his tactical officer reported. Their commanders are surprised that we know all their emergency protocols. Do-hyun nodded, remembering the years of careful intelligence gathering. Every time the Arcadians had inspected human facilities, human agents had been studying their technology, their codes, their tactics. Every treaty signing had been another chance to learn their secrets. Begin landing operations, he ordered. Tell our ground forces to use minimal force. We want the colony intact. The Arcadian garrison on New Eden surrendered within an hour. They had trained to fight primitive human weapons, not the advanced combat suits and weapons that seemed to appear from nowhere. Their defense plans, practiced for years, fell apart as human forces seemed to know exactly where to strike. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving similar reports from 6 other colonies. The Arcadians are retreating everywhere. They can't coordinate their forces without quantum communications. Do-hyun opened a channel to the other Ghost Fleet commanders. On his screen, he saw them directing similar operations across human space. Colonies that the Arcadians had taken through legal trickery were returning to human control through careful military precision. Update from Fleet Command, his executive officer reported. The Arcadian databases we compromised are giving us everything. Defense plans, ship positions, emergency protocols. We have it all. For decades, human-computer experts had hidden in plain sight, placing backdoors in Arcadian systems while pretending to barely understand basic networking. Every time the Arcadians had helped humanity build communication systems, they had invited wolves into their house. Message from the colony governor. Communications announced. The human population is celebrating in the streets. They're calling it Liberation Day. Do-hyun looked at the massive farming plains of New Eden through the ship's cameras. The colony's 2 million human inhabitants had waited patiently, pretending to accept Arcadian rule while knowing this day would come. Their patience had been rewarded. Sir, Tactical reported, long-range sensors show Arcadian reinforcements trying to reach the colony. They're still using standard engines. They'll be here in 6 hours. They still don't understand, Do-hyun said quietly. Send the prepared message to their command ship. On the Arcadian vessel, the commander received a detailed report of every weakness in his ship's defenses, every flaw in his tactical plan, and every secret order he had received. The human message was clear. We know everything about you. The Arcadian ships turned around. As night fell on New Eden, Do-hyun received new orders from Fleet Command. Proceed to Phase 3. Begin advancement toward Arcadian core systems. He looked at his crew, seeing pride in their eyes. For years, they had trained in secret, waiting for this moment. The Arcadians had thought they were dealing with a weak, primitive species. Instead, they had attacked a sleeping giant that had been studying them all along. The counterattack was only beginning. Commander Jai-Yun Song stood at the helm of the stealth cruiser Silent Justice as the massive human fleet emerged from quantum space near the Arcadian homeworld. The planet's famous crystal cities glowed beneath its 3 moons, their inhabitants unaware of what was about to happen. All ships in position, her tactical officer reported. The Arcadian home fleet is attempting to form a defensive line, but they're still struggling without quantum communications. Jai-Yun opened a channel to the Ghost Fleet squadron under her command. Begin transmission of targeting data. Show them what we know. Across the Arcadian defense network, alarms began to sound. Every commander watching their displays saw the impossible. Human ships knew the exact positions of their hidden defense platforms, their underground bunkers, their emergency command centers. 50 years of secret preparations lay exposed. Message from the Arcadian High Council. Communications announced. They're asking how we mapped their entire defense network without detection. Jai-Yun thought about the countless human trade ships that had visited this world over the decades, each one carrying hidden sensors, each civilian crew carefully gathering data. The Arcadians had been so proud of their security, never suspecting that the simple trading vessels were building a complete map of their defenses. Show them the simulation, she ordered. On screens across the Arcadian capital, military leaders watched in horror as human computers demonstrated exactly how their defenses would fall. Every backup plan, every emergency protocol, every secret weapon, all had been studied and countered before the first shot was fired. Their ships are powering down weapons, Tactical reported. The home fleet is standing down. Ground installations are going silent. Jai-Yun received a private message from Fleet Command. Proceed with diplomatic transmission. Remind them of their choices. She opened a channel to the Arcadian High Council chamber. The alien leaders looked small now, their usual confidence replaced by shock and fear. 50 years ago, Jai-Yun said clearly, you began taking our colonies through legal trickery. You thought humans were weak because we were patient, because we smiled and signed your treaties. You never asked yourselves why we accepted your demands so easily. The main Arcadian counselor stood. What do you want? The same thing we wanted 50 years ago, Jai-Yun replied. Peace, real peace, not the false peace you forced on us. But now we negotiate from equal positions. She sent them the terms: return of all human colonies, reparations for resources taken, new treaties that respected both species' rights. The document was written in perfect Arcadian legal language, another skill humans had mastered while pretending to struggle with basic translations. You have 1 hour to accept, Jai-Yun said. We've been patient for 50 years. We won't wait another day. As the council debated, Jai-Yun looked at the beautiful Arcadian world below. Human ships surrounded it completely, their advanced weapons ready to pierce any defense. But victory had come not through superior firepower, but through patience, preparation, and the willingness to wait for the perfect moment. The Arcadian response arrived in 58 minutes, complete acceptance of all terms. Humanity's patience had finally been rewarded. Admiral Jeho Park walked through the Grand Hall of the Earth Defense Council headquarters in Seoul, his footsteps echoing against the marble floors. The same window where he had stood when this began now showed a different view. Representatives from 20 alien species arriving for the first meeting of the new Galactic Council. Ambassador Sun Ma-cho met him at the entrance to the conference room. The Arcadian delegation has arrived, she reported. They seem different now. Humility changes people, Jeho replied. Even aliens. Inside the conference room, the Arcadian representatives sat quietly, their gray skin darker with embarrassment. 3 months had passed since they signed the surrender documents. Their empire, once the greatest power in known space, now sat as equals among other species. The human delegation may begin, announced the neutral moderator from a distant galaxy. Jeho stood, facing the assembled representatives. For 50 years, the galaxy lived under laws written by the Arcadian Empire. laws that allowed the strong to take from the weak through clever words and legal tricks. Today, we propose a new system. He activated the main display, showing the document that human legal experts had spent decades preparing. The new Galactic Charter guaranteed rights for all spacefaring species. It prevented the kind of legal manipulation that the Arcadians had used. Most importantly, it had teeth. The human ghost fleet would enforce its rules. Humanity could rule the galaxy now. Jai-Ho continued. Our technology, our military strength, we could become the new Arcadian Empire. But that was never our goal. We wanted justice, not power. Equality, not dominance. The alien representatives studied the charter carefully. Many of them had suffered under Arcadian rule, watching helplessly as their colonies and resources were taken through legal trickery. Now they saw a path to real freedom. The charter is fair, the Arcadian leader admitted quietly. We wish we had offered such terms ourselves, long ago. One by one, the representatives voted. The charter passed unanimously. A new age of galactic law began, one built on respect rather than force, on cooperation rather than conquest. Later that evening, Jai-Ho stood in his office with Sun Me and the other architects of humanity's patient strategy. They watched ships from 20 worlds departing Earth, carrying the news of the new order to their home systems. Do you think they understand yet? Sun Me asked. Why we waited so long? Jai-Ho picked up the stone from his village, the same one he had held when this began. They're learning. The Arcadians thought patience was weakness because they had never seen real strength. Real strength is being able to endure, to wait, to plan. Not for revenge, but for justice. The galaxy will remember this, Sun Me said. No nation will ever forget the moment humanity's patience finally broke. No, Jai-Ho corrected gently. They'll remember the moment humanity's patience finally succeeded. We didn't break. We won. And we won without becoming what we fought against. As night fell over Seoul, lights twinkled in the sky. Ships from 100 worlds, coming to join the new coalition. Humanity had kept its patience for 50 years, building strength in secret. But in the end, they had used that strength not for conquest, but for peace. The long wait was over. A new age had begun.